Hi there, my name's Andy Young and I'm one of the automotive lecturers down at Unitec in Auckland, New Zealand. This is one of my basic skills videos, and in this video I'm going to show you how to wire up a New Zealand trailer lighting socket. That's the one with a little flap on it that normally sits on your car and it screws underneath the bumper. You can also use these as a fly lead, as a fly socket, so if you want to make an adapter like I'm doing this morning, so that I can, what can I do? So have this on one end, so this would plug into the New Zealand trailer lighting plug, and then on the other end of the adapter, bit of wire, I then have a UK trailer lighting plug, which will then go into the UK's car's socket. So that would allow me to tow a New Zealand trailer with New Zealand lighting stuff behind my English car here in New Zealand. So these are actually really useful to make. You can buy them, and yeah, it's more fun to make them, isn't it? Okay, so here we go. Let's make a start. Pretty simple. Okay, so first job before we start burying back wire and stuff is to dig our way in and see what we've got inside this socket. So we're going to take the rubber boot off the end, and I always put that straight down the wire because I always forget to put that on before I start wiring it up. Okay, so screws coming out. There we go. Excellent. Okay, so we've got our wiring clamp and we've got the 7 terminals for the 7 different wires. So we'll take the wiring clamp out of the way. Just makes life a little bit easier getting the wires located. We'll deal with that later on. Right. Now, when you first buy these, you'll find that you've got the screws in each of these terminals are screwed all the way in. You need to wind those out really as far as they're going to go, but without actually taking them too far. You don't want them to fall out because these things are really fiddly to get back in again. I've got rather annoyed in the past getting these in previously. And they're a really odd thread as well, so you really don't want to lose any of these. Trying to replace them is a bit of a nightmare. Okay. One more to go. Now, you'll also notice that they've put, actually on this particular brand, this is made by Britex. In fact, they're in England. They're near Filey, I think it is somewhere. Really good company, make good gear. You'll also notice that down here there's some numbers. Got 1, 6, 5, 3, 2, 7, 4. Seems to be in no particular order. Don't worry about that, but those numbers are important if you're looking at particular wiring diagrams. And I will put you a diagram on this video so that you can take a snapshot of that for reference. Okay, so we need now to start to trim back the wire. Now, the clamp is here, and we need to have the thick black insulation where the clamp is. That's really important. So if we trim back, well, we've got to get right up to there, haven't we? So if we trim back about here, that should give us plenty. Okay, so trimming back, I always, this is my technique, just nibble away at the outer casing with your side cutters, and as you pare it back like that, you'll feel the rest of the plastic will just snap. It'll just snap out of the way. Just be really careful that you don't go too deep and nibble or pinch the inner wires, because you want to try and maintain as much of that insulation, well, all of it really. You don't want to create any shorts. There we go. Okay, so that's now off, and that's going to expose the 7 wires of this 7-core cable, we call it. Now, on some 7-core cable, the white wire is actually slightly thicker in section. That's because that's the earth wire, and it's got all the circuits, all the various lighting circuits traveling back to battery earth down it, so it's got a bit more amps flowing down that one wire. But on this particular brand, it's the same by the looks of it, so we don't need to worry about that too much. Okay, now as regards how much to trim back, if you look down the hole, and it's very difficult to spot, if you get a scriber or something, you can stick your scribe it down, put your nail on the end, pull it out. Okay, so we've got about 6 mil. Now I want to make sure that the insulation of each of these wires is right up hard against each of these terminals. So I'm going to pare back, let me think now, how big is that? I'm going to pare back 10 mil, and then we're going to double it over, because I think we can get a double in there. We'll just do the blue one first, see if that's going to work. So we twizzle it round, put our nail in there, and then kink it back on itself. And let's see if that's going to fit into one of those terminals. If it is, then we'll do that for all of them. Yes, perfect. Okay, that gives the screw a lot more to bite into. It makes a far better job of the connection. So we'll do that for all these 7 wires. Just bend them back. There we go. Next one. Now, the blue one, by the way, is normally used for things like fog lights on trailers. And here in New Zealand, not many trailers have fog lights on them. Not that it doesn't get foggy, it does. We just don't seem to have them. Okay. The yellow is one of the indicator wires, as is the green. And you'll get to find out which is which very shortly. There we go. Kick that one back. And black. Now black is either unused on some wiring circuits, or it forms one side of the tail lights on the trailer. And sometimes in the plug you've got to put a bridging wire between the black and the brown. The brown is always tail lights. It either does one side of the trailer or both sides, but it's always in use as tail lights. And that would include your number plate light. It's all part of the same circuit. Okay, and then finally we've got the red, and red is always brakes. That's your brake light circuit. Really important. Brake lights are extremely important circuit. Okay, so we've trimmed them all back, and now it's time to start putting the wires into the plug. Now we've got here number 1, and we've also got signal left. Well, that's the yellow wire. Okay, so the yellow wire is your left turn signal. So we'll stick that in there like that. Hopefully it's going to go in. Yep, there we go. Nice snug fit. And keeping it all the way in whilst we tighten up that screw. And get it pretty tight, you know. You don't want to risk stripping the threads, but you don't want it loose in there, because any kind of bad connections are going to mean your lights are going to be a lot duller than they should be. We don't want that. Okay, so the next one is brake. Well, that was red, wasn't it? So let's put the red one in there next. There we go. Look at that. Really snug fit. Now we've got a bit of a bunch up on the wires there, so I'll tidy that up. And what's going on there? Okay. Hopefully it's going to behave itself. Now you can always get a pair of long nose pliers and just give the whole thing a bit of a crumple. Make sure it's all nice and tight together. Let's see if that's going to fit in there. Oh, there we go. Look, perfect. It is important to have it good and tight. The last thing you want is that screw just clinging onto a few strands, because these things tend to break pretty easy. They have a very hard life, these things. So the next one is the blue. Okay, we'll stick that in there like that. Now, the next one is always earth. The middle one's always earth on these, so we'll stick the white one in there. Pretty tight. Let's give it a little crimp with our long nose pliers. Just going to make sure all those little wires are very tightly bound. Now what you can do on these, if you want to do a really cool job, is to run a bit of solder down each of these wires once you've prepared them ready for going in. Now just bear in mind that the solder will make the whole thing a bit bigger in section, which means you're probably not going to be able to double the wires over. But solder's very, very good. It really helps to prevent any problems with corrosion and stuff. So it makes the whole thing a lot more corrosion resistant. Strongly recommend that. And if I was, doing this a bit more time, I'd be doing that as well. But it's a video day today. Okay, so after the white, we've got black, which sometimes is used on these things. Sometimes it doesn't form any part of a circuit, but we don't want it flying around inside the plug, so we'll just pop it in there. And it's not good to snip it off, because you might be able to use that black in the future as an emergency. If you've got a corroded wire and the black one's still good, then you could maybe swap it and use the black as a temporary red or brown or whatever it is, just to get you home. You don't want to be driving home in the dark with no lights on the trailer. And then after the black, we've got brown. Now brown's really important too. That's your tail lights. And on most trailers, that's tail lights both sides. It's things like your number plate lights, side markers, all that kind of thing. So brown's pretty critical. There we go. Give that a tweak. And then lastly, you've got your turn signal green, which is for your right turn signal. There we go, that should be enough. Making sure that screws all. We can go half a turn on the screw. We want maximum space for this thing to go in, because it's pretty big as this green one for some reason. There we go, got it. It is a bit more fiddly doubling these wires over, but it does make a much better connection, so it's well worth the few extra minutes of effort to get it done. And like I say, if you can solder them, even better. Okay, so that's all of the wires done. We now need to push that cable forwards, making sure there's a bit of slack in there. And we also need that into the black insulation to line up with the clamp. Okay, now with the clamp, you'll see it's got on one side some serrations here, some ridges, and the other side is raised. Now it depends on the thickness of your cable. If you put the clamp on that way around, is it actually going to clamp the cable? Well, no, it's not. It's not going to clamp this cable at all. If I hold that in place, I can still move it around. So we're going to have to fit the clamp this way up, and that's fine. It's designed to do that. And we'll put one of the screws in first. Again, it's fiddly and it's not ideal. But we need to make sure that that cable's not going to move around. Now that clamp will flex a little bit. It is only plastic. There we go. So you can see that now, look. Clamping down, holding that cable. Don't over tighten it. That's important that you don't over tighten it. Okay, so that's held in really well. So if somebody pulls on the cable, it's not going to pull any of these wires out of those sockets. Okay, I'm just going to try and tidy up that the brake one, the red one, because that's a bit untidy. I don't like that kind of stuff, and I can use my long nose pliers to get in there, just to offer it back up. There we go. Give it a tweak. Great stuff. Now, before you put the cover on, one thing you can do is put some grease in here. That grease is going to help to cut down the moisture attacking all these terminals and causing corrosion. So if you don't fill it full, but just put some grease or some Vaseline inside here. Okay, it makes it a real messy job next time round you come in, but hopefully that's going to be delayed quite a bit by the fact you won't need to, because there won't be any problems. Once you've done that, you can put the cover on, and you've got a couple of screws again to hold that cover in place. One and two. There we go. And of course, mustn't forget One or two of you will have forgotten, no doubt, to put that rubber boot on first. There we go. So that is now finished. Great job. Okay, so there you go. A short video on how to wire up a New Zealand trailer lighting socket. And that's the one that stays on your car, and it's got the little flap and so on. It screws to the bumper. And that's the kind of thing you'll be doing on a bit of wire like this, maybe a bit longer, which you would then scotch lock into one of the rear light clusters to get all your wires. Well, you'd have to run a wire from the other lighting cluster to get your other indicator wire, but all the rest could come from one of the lighting clusters. Not a difficult job. One of the critical things is to know which terminal, which colour wire goes onto and what that wire does. It's important to stick to a standard so that everybody else that works on the car in the future, and yourself obviously at some point, remembers what colour code wire does what. So it's really critical to follow the diagram that I posted earlier in the video. Well, if you found the video helpful, then please subscribe to the channel. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll do my very best to get back to you as soon as I can. My name's Andy Young. I'm one of the automotive lecturers down at Unitec in Auckland, New Zealand, and well, thanks for watching. Cheers. Over and out.